In this video, I'm making one of our favorite sourdough discard recipes, especially for fall. These are pumpkin spice scones, and they are so delicious. I'm going to talk about 2 different ways to ferment these so they have the best digestibility and the best texture, as well as how you can freeze them to bake later. I mixed up a double batch of pumpkin scones. I mixed together all of the dry ingredients first. And then I'm going to use a pastry cutter to cut in that cold butter. I stir my wet ingredients like my pumpkin and my sourdough discard. And because I'm not using milk, I'm just using the moisture from the sourdough discard and from the pumpkin. It actually takes a while for all this moisture to infuse every bit of the dry dough or the dry mixture with any moisture. So this actually took a little bit of elbow grease. With scones, that you have to be really careful not to melt the butter by too much handling. So I was trying to use a spoon as much as possible. I ended up using my handy dough scraper with the rounded side. That really helped mix my dough together. A few times I did have to use my hands slightly. I don't recommend handling the dough with your hands too much because our hands are warm. It will warm up and melt the butter, which will change the consistency of your scones. They won't be as flaky in the end. So if you need to handle your dough like I had to, just put it in the fridge with some plastic wrap for about 20 to 30 minutes until it's more solidified and cooled down, and then try again. So once my scone dough was completely mixed, and it did take a little time to get it completely mixed, and there was no dry flour anywhere, I turned the dough over frequently to make sure I got all that dry flour mixed into the wet ingredients. Then I covered it and I put it in the fridge to kind of do some more fermentation and become more digestible. And so you can see the double batch being shaped here. I split the dough in half, and each half I rolled on a well-floured surface, and you're gonna make sure you have some flour on the surface of the dough because it is a little bit sticky. And I rolled it out into an even thickness, about a 3/4 of an inch to 1/2 inch thick, and 11 inches by 11 inches square. And I try to get it as square as possible because the more square that it is, the better that all the scones will look. And once I have my 11 inch by 11 inch square, I'm using a sharp bench knife or pastry cutter to cut this into fourths first. And then I'm taking each fourth of this square and I'm cutting those into triangles. So I have 16 pieces in each half of the dough. And once I have the 16 scone triangles, I'm transferring them to a parchment lined baking sheet and covering those with plastic wrap and putting them into the fridge. And I'm actually doing even more fermentation before I freeze them. So I'm doing the second half of the dough. There are 2 ways I like to do scones. I either like to let the dough sit and do the extra fermentation bit in the fridge covered, or I like to shape them immediately and then cover them with plastic wrap and put the shaped scones into the fridge to do some more of that fermenting. But either way, they both turn out great. And I'm actually doing a combination here. While your scones are chilling in the fridge, preheat your oven to 400 degrees, and then you'll bake these for 12 to 14 minutes. Once they are baked and set in the center, you're going to cool them completely and then top them with the icing drizzle. Once I had the first batch out of the freezer, the second batch, after about 5 to 6 hours in the fridge, went to the freezer where I let them sit for about an hour at least. You can go longer, but an hour at least in the freezer so they get really solid and can transfer easily to my freezer bag.
I hope that video was helpful for you. Please like it if it was, and share it with a friend. If you like this content and want to see more, you can subscribe. And down in the description box, you can see some of the resources I'm using, my resource guides, as well as how to find my online courses if you really want to get started and see the full process of making sourdough. Leave me a comment. Let me know, what are you getting stuck on? What would you like to see more of? That really helps me decide what to create for you in the future. Thank you for being here.